ladies and gentlemen. My name is Charles Lawolazo Kolikwela, and today I want us to take a look at corruption in Liberia, how corruption is affecting us negatively in our society. Basically, I want you to know that when you hear the word corruption, corruption means dishonest. Being dishonest and fraudulent act by people who are in authority, people who are in power. Corruption is not being truthful to your people. And I want us to know that corruption is affecting everybody in our society. Most often, most especially Liberia. So corruption is endemic at every level of the Liberian society. That is every part of Liberia. Every single places you go, you will see corruption. You will see somebody get involved with corrupt act. You'll see somebody doing things out of the way. So today I want us to take a survey about that, and we will discuss it by point, and I will tell you that hey, if we work these things out, we will be able to get at a point where we can minimize corruption. Because to eradicate corruption is not something to just easily be done. So we will look at those step by step. Firstly, I have just told you that corruption is dishonest, being dishonest. So we look at the word dishonest, not being truthful. Whatsoever you are doing, if you're not truthful to yourself, it's dishonesty. So corruption is not only being practiced in a high hierarchy or among government officials. Like all only agree. Not everybody talk about corruption. People only look at embezzlement. People look at stealing of money. People look at bribery. But what about our various homes, in our houses, in our various schools? They are being practiced by our husbands, by our wife, our children. Those are all involved, and all those come together, become corruption. And it's a gradual process. It started small. Gradually, it be part of you until you become a governmental property, you become a government official. Because it's something you learn from home. It's something that's part of you. And now you are in office, you continue to do the things you have practiced at home. So, corruption in our country, if you go back to your houses, between husband and wife, let's discuss corruption in the house. How dishonesty is being practiced in the home. You have your darling wife calling you, honey, I need $500 for full money. I need $1,000 for full money. And you give the full money. Your wife has gone to the market. Instead of you giving the quality, the value of the money you gave, she come over little, embezzle the rest of the money. That's being corrupt. So those acts are being practiced home, and we overlook them in our marketplaces, charging people by appearance. People look at you, yeah, you are handsomely dressed. They give you only price. The next man come, you're looking regular up, they give you a price. That's corruption. So when all those things are being practiced and we living with them, we don't see them. But they are all part of corruption. We look at students going on the campuses, taking receipt, coming back, oh daddy, I'm to pay $1,000. And they were informed to just pay $200 maybe for activities fee. You took $1,000 and give to your child, and the child went back. They come up with different things, not even giving you receipt. Corruption is being practiced at every level in our society. From high school, from the homes to the schools, from the schools to the market, gradually corruption level, you go to your office. If we don't fight corruption from our houses, from our school campus, can we fight corruption to the higher level, to the executive branch? No. So from this note, corruption is not something that can just easily be fought in Liberia. We should fight it with our mind, not just talking. We should fight corruption with consciousness. We should fight corruption without fear. That's how we will be able to overcome this friend of ours right now who living among us, corruption. That's how we can overcome it. Let's take to the level of the government. We have so many governmental offices. We have so many places, private institutions, where corruption is being radicalized and nobody taken serious. Let's take to the various hospitals. How many of us are going to the hospitals and you see nurses looking at you, and you see nurses are like requesting for money before they treat your patients or before you're being served? Somebody is telling you that you need to pay this. There's common paracetamol. You have to pay before you're being treated. That's it among the police. How many police officers do you see on the street being fair enough to drive when they call for license plate, give your license, and somebody is giving $100 in place of the license. This is how therefore the corruptions are done in our country or in our society. Liberia. Let's take for instance, corruption have been dressed in a white garment with our government officials and being placed or called for dinner in a dining room table where every one of them are seated. When you have corruption in a white garment, I dare anybody to stink the cloth of corruption. I dare anybody to touch the garment of corruption, because we ourselves address corruption. We ourselves gave the value that corruption having today. Now, I will give you a few reports that was released in 2021 by Center. And Center did this survey. They came up with their report that most of our institutions have people practice corruption.
The nation address, which was delivered in 2018 at the beginning of my presidency, I declared that corruption under my administration will be unacceptable. I promised the Liberian people that those who fulfill the public purse will be made to account.
What do Liberians think? We asked 601 Liberians in Nimba, Grand Bassa, Bong, Barpolu, Riverses Bomi, and Montserrato.
90%, that is 9 out of every 10 Liberians, think corruption is high. Only 2% think corruption is low. 42% of those who think that corruption is high said so because there are rampant allegations of corruption. 41% said corruption is high because there is lack of transparency and accountability, while 29% said corruption is a custom in Liberia.
24% of Liberians think that government is committed or somewhat committed in fighting corruption, while an overwhelming 66% think that government is not committed in fighting corruption at all.
What can we say then about others? The police, the national police are involved. Let's take the level of the government. When President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf came in 2016, then President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf declared corruption as public enemy. But guess what? At the point where she was drinking, she later came and said corruption had become what? Vampire. That simply means she had no more power to even arrest corruption. She had no power to prosecute corruption. What then will you say about President George Manneh Weah?
Do you think President George Manneh Weah is even able to prosecute somebody who is caught in corrupt act? And it is not possible. That's not just easy to be done. Now, let me tell you something. When the map-up process came out from Honorable Samuel Tuwe, he had President George Manneh Weah being mute about it. Can President George Manneh Weah prosecute Nathaniel Magay? Not possible. Kochi? Not possible. Can he even have the authority or the power to invite Mohammed who said he saw money in pickups around here? Not possible. So that is how corruption is being seated, or that is how corruption is dressed among our government officials. The fact is that they are all swimming and dining around corruption. When President George Manneh Weah took over, he was misled and he agreed with them by going as far as getting his hands into the government cupboard. Take money to be used on his personal benefit. Now that is dishonesty. That's being dishonest to the people of Liberia. Now, it's based on those issues that President George Manneh Weah will close his eyes on corrupt government officials. That's why you don't see him into those activities that say, hey, you want to prosecute somebody who is caught in a corrupt act. There's no record about that. Now, the only means that we Liberians ourselves can fight corruption in order to reduce it is by giving the power, the authority to LSCC. LSCC is giving that authority, the power. They can help to minimize. I'm not saying eradicate. They can minimize the level of corruption in our country. They started, most of their work is almost like witch hunting. They go after other government officials, like the former president's son were arrested, Charles were arrested, Charles Sirleaf. But what about those who are in authority president? Makes using public funds, using public offices to gain personally. That's being dishonest to the people. You use your office to carry on your own enjoyment. That's being dishonest to the Liberian people. So if you empower the Anti-Corruption Commission, LCC, give them the power to arrest without any interfering from any government official, give them the power to incarcerate people who are caught in corrupt act, and not just incarcerating them, but incarcerate them plus high labor, seizure of property, then we will say we are minimizing corruption. We are on the track of fighting corruption. But at this level with this government, when it's led by the CDC people, or when they came to power, they said there was propo. When you say propo, meaning government for the poor people, but you are sleeping in luxurious life. You live your life, you enjoy yourself, and you have the common people stay in hunger. You go to the very government hospitals, you see a medical director having his or her own personal clinic being well established, well furnished, enough drugs there, more than the government facility. It's not that being dishonest to the people. That's being dishonest. That's corruption. You go to the court. The judiciary system in Liberia is being compromised because if you don't have money, you go to court now. Everything somebody wants, small thing. Bribery has taken over the judiciary system of Liberia. That's corruption. So that's how corruption have grown. Let's go to the security sector. Let's go to the police, the national police of Liberia. You have police on the street. You have police on the street. Go on the crime scene and arrest. And the police is telling you that you need to transport me. You need to give me transportation. That's corruption. That's corruption. That's an act of being corrupt. So we are corrupt in the sense that even our own household, we become corrupt until corruption moves over in our very bedrooms. Some government officials are sleeping in bed with corruption. They go to bed with corruption. They wake up from bed with corruption. That is how we have been friendly with corruption. And those are the reasons that are making things difficult for us in our country. President George Manneh, we are government. The early Johnson Sirleaf government, they did zero. There was nothing done to put corruption under control. There's nothing done. Go to the very high schools. Go to the very schools. Corruption is being practiced even in the classroom. Teachers give tests and give envelopes requesting for students to give token before you can make a pass. I'm speaking today. Who knows tomorrow? I'm going to be one of the targets, but I don't care. The fight remains that we should speak against corruption. We should expose corruption so that we can find the the best way to minimize or eradicate corruption from our system. So dishonesty is not only the act of taking bribery or taking money from someone else. You can be corrupt in act. You can be corrupt in your words. And that's how corruption has been established in our country. From this note, I will let you to continue. Join us. Let's continue to speak against corruption. Let's continue to raise the flag against corruption. Do not be afraid. One of the ways forward in fighting corruption or to minimize corruption in our country, like I said earlier, let us empower LCC. Let us also set up monitoring and evaluation committee to our very offices, to all government offices. Let us get involved as citizens of our country. Let us expose every bribery act, every dishonest act. Even if your wife is dishonest to you, tell your wife that you are being dishonest. If we practice those things, you go to the market and you realize that someone else is in the market being dishonest, speak against it. When you get on your keke, on the buses, and you realize that the cabo or the keke owner is being dishonest in terms of transportation, speak out. If we continue to do those things, at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, I can give you that assurance, my fellow Liberians, that we can make corruption to be minimized. Thank you.